All right. Happy Friday, everybody. It is a beautiful, sunny Saturday or Friday here in Seattle, Washington. I just saw leaves outside my window and they're turning yellow, which is absolutely crazy. I do not want the fall to come. I kind of do, but mostly I want the sun to stay here. But that's neither here nor there. We're here to talk about real estate. Today we have Chad Zdenek with us from CSQ Properties. Chad is a master at real estate, spanning 25 years of experience. He focuses on multifamily and self-storage, which you guys know is my favorite topic. So I am super excited about this. Chad, thank you very much for hopping on the show.
Cool. Appreciate it, Gabe. Good to be here.
Absolutely. I told you before we got on here, we like stories. We like to hear how people got to where they are. So take us to the beginning of your story. How'd you get started in real estate?
Good. So my beginning started, yeah, I guess 25 years ago. It's a long time, but yeah. So I was going to school for civil engineering, working for a construction management company, and thinking that I was going to go into construction. But last minute, really, I got an offer from a company called Rocketdyne that did space shuttle main engines development, design, and manufacturing. So worked there. Wound up working there for 7 years. So technically as a rocket scientist,
That's
and
cool.
then while I was getting my MBA, I was helping my brother start a lighting company, and he grew that company a little bit over I guess the next 2 years, and recruited me over to join him as a partner in that company. So him and I started out really, really small business. I wound up taking a 50% pay cut to join him. He wound up guaranteeing to pay me more than he was paying himself. So it was really we both had to make concessions there. But we wound up growing that over the next 15 years to be a 75-person company, 3 different warehouses. We did installation, service, removal for holiday lighting, wedding lighting, landscape lighting. And then he bought me out in 2018 when I went back into real estate, this time as an investor, syndicator. And so I did that from 2018, started out in multifamily, and then not converted, but really diversified a bit into self-storage properties. So I started out, my first real estate investments were on my own, actually prior to that. And then I started syndicating in 2018, 2019 here in Los Angeles, where I live. And then eventually started partnering with people and doing bigger deals out of state in the multifamily space and self-storage space.
Very cool. So when you first got in, like when you first bought your first property, was that a multifamily or did you just start out with, rentals and single family and that kind of stuff?
So when I was doing my own investments, I bought a sober living home of all things,
Huh.
and
Interesting.
a medical building. So pretty diverse, I guess. But then my first syndication a few years later was in multifamily here in LA.
Huh. Why did you choose a medical building as the first one? It was just a good deal or
No, so that one's got a bit of a story. So it's been in the family for a bit. So my
Hmm.
grandpa actually built it in 1952. It's a 10-unit medical building. My dad bought it from him in 1986, and then I bought it from my dad in 2015.
Nice.
So it's a family property. I still own it today and manage it actually. So I do all the property management for that one as well. It's nearby where I live, and then the sober living home was an investment. There was an operator in there, and then I had to get rid of the operator and had to run it myself for 2 years, which was not very fun. I just sold that last year.
Oh,
Yeah, it's like if you think like COVID is bad enough or dealing with tenants is tough, like try doing it in LA and then try doing it for sober living for only women and kids. Like it's
oh,
like
geez.
next level difficulty. But yeah,
How
so I
does
finally
how does
hmm?
sober living, and this is completely off well, I guess it's not completely off topic, but sober living houses, I've heard of people like going in and actually buying those as that's their strategy, is buying those as investment properties. I never think of those as an investment. I think of it more of like a charity. And so how does that work as the investment? Are those are the individuals renting rooms from you, or is this are you like leasing it to the state and then the state um I don't know runs the property itself?
Yeah, it can be done in a bunch of different ways, and it really depends on where you live because the rules and available money are all kind of different, right? So the way I bought it as an investment with an operator in place who was like leasing it from me, right? And
Mhm.
so it's pretty hands off. It was just done as an investment. But then finding out, several years down the road when the operator started not being able to make rent, and then that's where the charity kicks in, like, okay, you're trying your best, there's not a lot of moms in there and whatnot. So I did start doing charity at that point, and then come to find out maybe a year after the charity work that she was embezzling money and totally lying about how many women were staying there, and just keeping the money herself. So that's when I fired the operator, and became an operator. And it's like I'm an entrepreneur, so I like diving into things, but like I knew nothing about running a sober living home. And by the way, I kicked her out in April of 2020.
Oh,
Right, like I mean, like disaster, right?
yeah.
um it was really bad. I still ran it for 2 years, and then like it made some money, not a lot, but it made, at least I was positive. But it was a lot of work. And then so I found new homes for all the women and kids in there, and finally sold it last year. And then of course invested in two properties in Florida, as we do from California.
Yep, yep.
um yeah, I
Nice.
converted like that one large home to like a 5 unit and a 6 unit building in Florida. So which I still have today as well. 1031 exchange, by the way. But so yeah, that was the sober living experience for 7 years.
Yeah. Well, when you go into a new strategy, you never know how it's going to turn out. You gotta dive in before you know whether it's for you or not. Sounds like this is not, which is totally fine. Multifamily is, and then self storage. So it sounds like you started in multifamily. At what point did you veer off and get into self storage?
So I started investing as an LP first, just to kind of learn more about it. Limited partner, passive investor in other people's deals. So learning about the industry more there, doing a lot of research on it. I was still doing my own syndications in multifamily, with the idea that I knew I wanted to diversify a bit into self storage. I love multifamily. I still do today. I'm actually in escrow on a deal right now. So I really like multifamily, but I do think it's good to diversify a bit. So self storage was a great play for that. And so I started syndicating self storage just last year.
Oh, cool.
But I've been investing in it for several years
Very cool.
as myself, as a passive investor.
Yeah. Yeah, I absolutely love self storage. I mean, we own mobile home parks too, but self storage is really what I like to focus on. So when you first got into it, you started syndications. Did you focus in LA? I know LA has a bunch of self storage facilities. I don't know what the laws are in there. Or were you looking, outside of California into different markets?
Yeah, I did out of state. I did Texas.
Oh, okay.
Uh, yeah, so I kind of put all my LA investing on hold, partway through COVID, just because of all the crazy rules that they were implementing, and they're still going on. Like LA City still has a rent freeze today.
Oh,
They have a
geez.
rent freeze at least until February of 2024.
Wow.
So
And
we
this is
don't know
from
if it'll be.
COVID?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow, that is crazy.
Yeah, so we're gonna be at least a 4 year rent freeze. And mind you, as a landlord, like your maintenance expenses don't stop. We've been getting hammered by inflation. So yeah, it's definitely pretty challenging. But like my properties were still cash flowing, every month. I got good debt on it, which helps a lot. But yeah, there's too much uncertainty for me. I'm just not really comfortable with it. So that's why I've shifted my strategy to invest out of state and partner with large operators and do bigger deals.
Yep, absolutely. So what is your criteria when you do your underwriting? What are you looking for self storage? Are you looking for a size, metro? What's the bread and butter for you?
So I think like my philosophy with partnering is I really look at the partners first.
Hmm.
That's where I do a lot of due diligence, relationship building, networking on the partnerships. To go back to the horse track analogy, that the partners are the jockey, the horse is the property, and the track is the market, right? They're all really important, but I take the philosophy of betting on the jockey. So I put a lot of homework and due diligence into the partners, and then I kind of joined forces with them on figuring out the markets or the property. But like they're the experts in their areas, right? Like if someone wanted to buy something in LA, like I would be that expert and I'm the operator here. But on out of state stuff, I partner with other people that know those markets a lot better than I do, and people that I know are good operators, good experience, deeper pockets, and then piggyback on that. So then once I have a good network of operators, then and they've already done their due diligence, then I kind of come over the top and do my own due diligence on what they've done. I really like third party due diligence reports. I think that really helps complement the due diligence well. So I know you got to pay extra money for that, but I think it's money well spent, well invested. So certainly going through the due diligence, third party due diligence reports is really helpful. Looking at your partner's due diligence is pretty helpful. And then finally, I like to go out to all the properties myself as well, at least to see the property, walk it, talk with the brokers, survey other properties around the area, which I think is pretty important, even just to have eyes on it. Like it's one thing to get like a rent survey or something like that, but it's a lot different when you actually walk the properties, the other properties, and really see, okay, like why are they $100 higher than us per month, right? Like, is it justified or is it poor management? Everyone says it's poor management, but it's not always poor management, right? Like, meaning the property you're buying, oh, they're managing it poorly, and that's why rents are low, and we're going to bring it to market. Like, there's a lot more to that than just that story. And I found that I can get a lot more of the story if I'm actually going to those other properties and doing like my own rent survey and pretending that I'm a potential tenant and what am I looking for. And also like visiting those properties at night is pretty important, not just during the
Oh,
day.
interesting. Yeah.
So yeah, that's a big one. That's like how I do my extra level of due diligence. But I'd see it as kind of those three layers on really getting comfortable with purchasing a property.
Are there any like specific KPI that you like to look at that will kind of draw a line in the sand? Like if it has the per capita net rentable is over, I don't know, 10 or something like that, or do you have specific KPI that you look at, or do you just kind of look at it at the gestalt and what the overall picture looks at?
Yeah, I think I focus more on occupancy and margin to market, and like what's the path forward to get there. So yeah, those are the two big drivers for me. In terms of like size, it tends to vary quite a bit. I mean, just like on my multifamily side, like I've done a $2 million deal and I've done a $68 million deal. So I do have some range in there. It's not like I have a narrow buy window for any of my types of properties. But I kind of like not having a real tight buy window because I'm a big proponent of diversifying. And sometimes different, always different markets will behave differently. Larger properties or smaller properties, like they behave very differently. And so I like to have a kind of a wider buy window, if you will. And so even like KPIs, like in terms of like the number of people, what per capita space in an area. Like I still like to vary that number. Average unit sizes. I like to vary that number. So I try not to narrow it down too much.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. To me, it's always just like the deal itself. People always say, "Oh, don't invest if the net rentable in the area is over 14 or something like that, or over 12, or don't invest if it's a population's less than 50,000." But I always like to look at the specific property, how it's doing, and just kind of make my decision at that point. So I'm with you on there. When it comes to your syndications, it sounds like you leverage operators in the local area to do the operations. What is the role that you generally take in your syndications?
So it varies on the team. I've been a solo operator, so I've done everything from A to Z on syndication. So I'm not like a specialist in one area. Um, I'm a licensed general contractor by background, so I tend to get involved in more of the value add type of deals, the construction side of things on the teams I'm a part of. But sometimes the team might already have that set up and they don't need that part of it, right? So I tend to be pretty versatile in terms of what the team needs, and that kind of dictates what my role in it would be. If that makes sense, it's very project dependent and team dependent. So, I work with various different teams. It's not like I'm just in one partnership team and we just all stick together and do the same thing. I guess that's another point of diversification, is working with different operators, different general partners as well, and then adapting to what they might need. And some teams, like, I'm kind of hands off, a lot more hands off on. I might just show up on the asset management calls and listen in and check in, but not really have as active as a role. And other ones, I'm very much involved in it. It depends on the deal.
Yep. Yep. I get that. So self-storage, multifamily, that's what you like. Have you considered any other asset class to kind of focus in on, or are you really honed in with those two?
Well, I guess technically I'm also in medical with the
Yeah, there you
10
go.
unit medical building, but I don't plan on really buying any more medical. And I don't know. I mean, that's a good asset class, and I know a lot about it, but I just haven't dove into it more. Right. My dad's an eye surgeon. My grandpa was a general physician, so I come from a family of doctors. Actually ran a surgery center for my dad for quite some time also. So I have experience there, but I just really haven't dove into that market. Although I think that would be pretty good. I think mobile home parks or car washes are probably like good cash flow plays right now. I'm definitely looking into those as a limited partner.
Mm,
And again, taking that kind of first limited partner step, doing a lot of research right now before bringing that to my investors as a general partner.
cool. We'll have to talk after the show. We actually have a car wash out in Dallas. I have no experience in car washes, so we're trying to pass it along. But I have heard that they're pretty good. Mobile home parks, I love. Car washes, I'm not so sure about that. So it looks like we have gone through our time. It is time to jump into the quick question round. Are you ready?
Yeah, sounds good.
Let's do it. Starts with books or any form of education. I need two of them. Give me one recommendation for general life wisdom and one for business or real estate specific.
Sure. So, a general life wisdom, a book by Simon Sinek called "Start with Why." That was really helpful and pivotal for me when I was making a career shift, just to try to get back to my core. So, "Start with Why" by Simon Sinek. And then I would say that on the real estate side of things, I learned a ton from Michael Blanc. He's a syndicator, has been doing it for a long time, puts out a lot of really good content. And I watched all his videos. I worked with his deal analyzer, which was really good, his Excel deal analyzer. So yeah, Michael Blanc, I learned a lot from as well.
Very cool. I love it. All right, next question is for your younger self. So let's go back to the Chad who is just graduating college, just starting out at that Aerodyne company. Go back to him, look him in the eye, give him one piece of advice moving forward.
This part's pretty clear for me. I know some people might not be as clear, but I'm pretty clear. I think one of the mistakes I made was, and this has been very difficult for me to get over, but I always wanted to do everything myself.
Mm,
Maybe that's the engineer in me, but I wound up getting like 3 master's degrees. I was always in school and educating, and that I was a very difficult way to go, and also a pretty slow way to go. If I was going back in time, I would talk to my younger self and say, "Hey, get out, do some networking and mentoring. Don't be afraid to invest in a mentor mastermind group, because that really compresses timeframes and you can avoid a lot of potholes, and you don't need to make all the mistakes yourself, right?" So I've done that a lot more recently, last several years. Invested in different mastermind groups. I've gone to 30 conferences in the last 2 years, so I'm
wow.
definitely like on board with it right now, and it's really helping to accelerate things. And I did it the hard way for a long time.
That's funny. 30 conferences in 2 years. That's got to be some kind of record.
Yeah, I did. It's a lot. I did 18 last year. I'll do about 12 this year. So I'm actually trying to do a little bit less because 18 was was a bit much.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, a
No,
lot of
that's good.
conferences.
My quota, I try to get one every quarter, which is, it's nothing compared to yours, but I do feel like there's a lot of value just going to those, showing up at the conferences, talking to people, networking.
Totally.
But 30, man, I'm sure you got quite the Rolodex at this point.
Yeah, it's been a lot.
All right, next question is about your business. The first three positions we hire for form the foundation of our business. So, what were they for you, and would you do it differently if you did it again today?
Uh, Good question. So I think the by and large the top position to start with is a virtual assistant. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
with technology today and the VAs that are out there, you can hire like really well educated and bright VAs to help out. So that's been a big one for me. Virtual assistants. I have three right now, and that really helps run a lot of my business. And again, they're not all like assistants, right? You can hire like super high level VAs. They're called still VAs, but like super high level, college educated, experienced type people to do some pretty important things for you. So that's been really helpful. The next one I think for me, which I haven't hired yet, would be on investor relations,
Mm.
and investor services, which is like the back end part of dealing with investors. I just find myself spending a lot of time in those areas, and so those would probably be my next two positions to hire, but I haven't done that yet.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not at that point yet myself, but I totally see the value of once you have 100 LPs, having a conversation with all those people will definitely suck up your time. So totally get that.
Yeah.
Moving to the next question. This is about the U.S. It's a big place, a lot of opportunity. Give me the single metro you're most excited about investing in today.
Single metro. I would probably say Orlando.
Okay.
Yeah, Orlando's been doing really well for us. Um, I've got a lot of, I've got, I don't know, maybe 14 properties or so in Florida, only one in Orlando, but I really like Orlando. So, and it's been doing really well. There's a lot of, and the migration patterns into Orlando. I just so actually wrote an article on LinkedIn about this. Five cities in Florida made the top 10 in the United States
Yeah.
for people moving to in the last trailing 12 months.
Yeah.
So Florida's doing great. In Orlando, I've got a 200 unit building out there that we had some tough times with for a variety of reasons, but man, the tailwinds from migration is really helping us out, and Florida in general is a great place to invest in. You got to deal with
Yeah.
insurance, which is tough right now, but overall, I'd pin Orlando as my top spot right now.
Yeah, I've Florida's definitely the hot ticket these days. And I can only imagine like hurricane flood insurance out there has to be, I don't know, a lot of money.
Yeah, they got to figure some things out. Like the increases that have happened this year are not sustainable. And the government, they're working on some things to help address that. But right now, it's out of control, and something you really got to keep an eye on. That's a tough one. Fortunately, there's a lot of other tailwinds that help overcome that, but that's a big headwind.
Yeah, for sure. All right, next question is about finding deals. It all starts with the on the acquisition side. I always get tripped up on that word. It all starts with finding the deal. So, what is your favorite way to generate leads and find new deals?
Um, I think it right now is an interesting time because it's a lot different than things were, a year, 2 years ago, when it was a seller's market. Right now is much more a buyer's market. There's some good deals out there, so it's a lot easier to network with brokers right now. I still think brokers are the key to finding these deals, especially if you've been in the market for a while and you have a relationship already with the brokers. Going back to networking as being important, if you have a relationship with these brokers, then you can get these deals, find these distressed deals a lot quicker and be the first one on them. And you're seeing right now maybe 10 to 20% drops in some of these properties on the distressed deals. But there's still buyers that are picking them up, and it helps to have that broker relationship. So I still think the brokers are the gateway for that.
Yep. All right. Next question is about your gifts. We are all gifted with strengths that we uniquely provide this world. So, what is your Superman strength?
Let's see. My Superman strength, being able to run a business and be a father of 5 kids.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
definitely a strength for sure.
juggling. Yeah, sometimes I feel beat up. I definitely don't feel like Superman, but I think I'm doing a pretty decent job of juggling that, which is no small feat.
Yeah, we just had our first. She is 2 months old, and that's only one. I can only imagine five. So props to you for that.
Thanks.
All right. This is the last question. It's for the listeners. I'm sure people want to reach out, get in contact with you, learn a little bit more about what you guys do out there at CSQ Properties. So, what is the best way for people to reach out?
Yeah, probably our website is CSQ Properties, like Challenge Status Quo. That's actually what it stands for. Challenge Status Quo, CSQproperties.com, or anywhere on social is just at CSQ Properties.
Perfect. I will put that link in the show notes. So if y'all want to reach out to Chad, just click the little more in the description. It'll pull down that full description. In there, you can find Chad's links. All
Awesome.
right. That wraps it up. Yeah. Thank you very much for hopping on the show.
Cool. Thanks, Gabe. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. For everybody who's here with us today, thank you guys for showing up. You are the reason we do this. So if you guys have any questions whatsoever, reach out to me, Gabe at therealestateinvestingclub.com. And if you guys want to support the show, all we ask is you give us a like, subscribe, share, all that jazz. Other than that, I hope you guys have a great week. Keep rocking real estate, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.